I told you that the continued detention of Musa, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, will come with a costly price. Again, I said the continued detention of Musa will come with a heavy price. Today, what is happening? The Canadian government has denied the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs from Nigeria access visa to Canada. That is the breaking news, that the Chief of Defense Staff expressing frustration and disappointment that the Canadian government embarrassed him, not minding his pedigree, his position as the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs were denied access to Canada. That would not have happened without a reason. And the reason bordering on the state of Nigeria, fundamental human rights, and compliance to the rule of law. Because Amnesty International has indicted Nigerian military on several occasions, bordering on alleged assault, violation, forceful disappearances of innocent people and civilians. Of course, in the north, it's been alleged that the exploitations, sexual exploitations, and the rest of them allegedly are carried out by the Nigerian military. So there are more to this. Imagine, it is the highest assault, the highest disrespect. Of course, the security advisor to the president, Ribadu, was not happy. Nuhu Ribadu was mad at that. What? That the Canadian government could insult the entire Nigerian sovereignty and deny the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs access to Canada because they were invited by some committee in honor of the war veterans, which is a great honor if the Chief of Defense Staff and the other chief military chiefs have attended. But the Canadian government said, don't give them access. Keep them here. Don't allow them to enter Canada, because Canada can't tolerate such gross violations. A country that has no regard, as allegedly, of course, that is before the public domain, even international criminal court has been conducting a prolonged investigation over the alleged criminal acts or purported the killing of the Igbo youths during Buhari time, and the rest of them is continual. These have presented the image of Nigeria before the community of nations as a country that violates fundamental human rights. According to the World Human Rights Organization, that sees for the compliance of the rule of law and the fundamental rights of humans, ranked Nigeria as 120 out of 140, which means Nigeria has fell below war-torn Ukraine and the worst military junta or government in Africa, ranking below even the Mali, Burkina Faso, and the rest of them that are being governed by military. This is quite unfortunate. So all these things, the world is watching. I told you that Musa can continue the tension we rub off on Nigeria. Look at the man claiming he is fighting Boko Haram. He's fighting insurgency. They know the truth. They know the truth, what is happening. You can't deny the reality. So this is coming as a shame and an embarrassment to the Chief of Defense Staff and the security advisor, saying that Canadian government can go to hell with their visa. Well, you don't have to say that, because they might consider repatriating, sending back Nigerians who are there, who have escaped, of course, Nigerian shores, who have escaped the poverty, the insecurity within the entrenched within Nigeria. They have run away. Most of them sold their entire life savings, belonged properties, and decided to leave Nigeria for good. Even some who has relatively stable jobs are fleeing the country so that they can enjoy their life. They can have peace. They can have a working environment where they could plan their lives and give better future for their children. It is quite alarming. It's quite disturbing. Why should Finland, why should Canada deny the chief of defense staff? That is not a my story. Something must be serious going on because you cannot watch this position, the presentation of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu in the courts, indicting Nigerian government and the judiciary, that his continuous abuse or violation of his fundamental rights is now portraying the Nigerian government and anything that has to do with the Nigeria institutions and the rest of them as being a lawless state. Perhaps this will give, of course, the government and the security operatives and other parastatals opportunity to begin to redeem the damaged public image or reputation. Because otherwise, I don't see any justifiable reason where Canadian government could embarrass the so-called giant of Africa. You know what that means? So the continued detention of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is hitting hard on the Nigerian government. And this is just the beginning. Of course, U.S. Under Donald Trump is possibly rolling out his own sanctions and the rest of them. And when he begins, he was just facing the Gaza Israeli, of course, hostages to be released, trying to resolve the Ukraine and Russian aggressions and hostility, a war that claims several millions of lives, damaged billions of properties, running into billions of dollars, a needless fight, a fight that in the first instance shouldn't have been, but have cost life because of negligence and selfishness. After Trump is done with them, reconciling them, and of course bargaining for peace, then he will face Nigeria. He will possibly face Nigeria. And it's not that he's just not interested about Nigeria. Some persons has expressed such doubts and concern. He is coming to Nigeria. He's coming to Nigeria definitely of issues and matters bordering on violations of the freedom of religion. Christians who have been persecuted and killed because of their faith. Of course, he will not turn deaf ears. He has made it very clear that he's going to fight to defend Christian faith and every other religion whose liberty has been threatened across the board. Nigeria should be the target when it has to do with Africa, because of most recent we have recorded killings bordering on religious sentiment and intolerance. So the gross violation of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu's case and the rest of them, as Mazen Nnamdi Kanu's case and trial or detention has a limited time. And that time, within the first year or so of Trump's, definitely he will turn back to Africa and Nigeria will be the focus. You know what that means? Canadian decision or step taken so far would be a child's play compared to what is about to happen. Of course, this might sever the diplomatic ties between Canada and Nigeria, but Canadians have respect and upholds the fundamental rights and the rule of law. So they wouldn't want to associate with any government or any institutions of any country that is being perceived or seen to be violating the fundamental rights of the people. And this is the basis for which the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs were denied access to Canada. But this, of course, comes as a shock to the security advisor and to the Chief of Defense Staff, because he expressed disappointment and frustration over this happening. You can imagine when a big man, with such hierarchy, highly placed within a society, not just within a country, coming with his legarias and entourage, only to be turned back. That is one of the highest humiliations. Perhaps let's see how that could be addressed. But Canadians have spelled out their positions. They have great respect and regard for the rule of law and fundamental right of humans. So any country that is culpable or perceived to be living below such expectations could not be tolerated or welcomed within the Canadian state. This is just the beginning. Perhaps they could uh, place some sanctions on Nigerians if the need becomes necessary, or if the diplomatic ties or treaty is being severed. Nigerian citizens, perhaps, who are schooling or are working there or living there, who have relocated themselves, who have run away from their country because they consider their country unsafe, insecure for them to abort and not fostering any hope and prospect for them. Killings here and there. I mean, the multi levied or taxed policies of the government is destroying people's lives. People are taking their lives, people are frustrated, people are losing their sanity and the rest of them. So you don't blame people when they sell their entire property to leave the shores of Nigeria because they have seen there is no future with these current realities. And those within the corridor of power are not thinking about the future either. They are only interested in their own personal gains and what benefits them most. They are not talking about the masses or the populations who have been impoverished and overstretched. Well, it's just a survival of the fittest. But for that to have touched the chief of defense staff, the security advisor, it means they will continue to nurse this for as long as you care. But the truth is that the Canada have sped out their process and of admission into their states. When you are found having some questionable mark has having to do with fundamental human rights violations, of course, you'll be in their spotlight any moment, any time. So they're just waiting for the time. If eventually he is scheduled, they could arrest him, and that will become another very devastating experience. But for him to be denied visa, one could be aware of according him respect, to avoid any further embarrassment. But that was a very big, deadly blow. But that wouldn't have been, of course, if there are no smokes, because you can't have smokes without fire. Let's have your take regarding this development. It is quite very unfortunate, but then that is the reality. I hope those concerned will begin to stretch their path and do what is right.